Turn on a microphone might help. How you doing, guys? How's everybody? Well, this is a last minute thing. I just was sitting out there watching AGL, 400 AGL, Mel and Lloyd, and earlier today I watched a replay of Art's Place, Art Goes Drone Solutions, and so everybody having so much fun doing live streams, and I've been doing a few of them lately, and I thought, well, what the hell? Got nothing else to do. I'll just come on tonight and give you guys a little update on some of the projects that I'm working on. Who we got here? Joe C., how you doing? My Sunday's been fine. The weather's been a little windy. Can't fly, so because of that storm Umberto that's out off over the Bahamas, and it's been kicking up a lot of wind and occasional showers here in Florida. So it's been good time to build, good time to actually catch up. And I've done some, I've gotten into that DJI FPV stuff and did a couple of live streams about that, and actually building my first quad with that system in it. And I did that yesterday, and or Saturday. Was it Saturday or yesterday? They all blur. It's all blur. But had a number of issues come up that when I went to finalize the build and do all the settings and the tunings and everything else that I had to do. And I thought that whether people stopped in and watched this live, or other people are following my little adventures here on a replay of these live streams, that I may have come across and researched some things and found some solutions that may be helpful. So I thought I'd just come on tonight. JDS Flying Canuck, how are you, my friend? There's a monkey on your back. Yeah, that's my monkey, Spank. You know, Spank the monkey. And that was a name that the guys came up with on the live stream one night, and I guess I'm stuck with it. So so that's old Spank, and he just sits there and doesn't bother me. Let me give you a blue wrench, JDS, so that you can be like the rest of us in here. And hey, man, Kiwi, how you doing? I finally got a chance to see you last night on Spike's stream. So now I know what you look at, what you look like. Hey, thanks for stopping by, man. What time is it? Oh, it's not too bad. What part are you in? You're in New Zealand, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? If it is, let me know. And so you're other side of the world, about half a day apart from us. And Dr. Drone, good to see you, man. You have been a flying fool lately, and really, really, really got to tell you, man, coming along with your flying. I've been keeping up with you, and it's a lot of work, and it is a challenge. So congratulations. I'm glad to see that you're doing it and having so much fun. I wanted to talk about New Zealand. 1:34 Monday afternoon here. Is that all? Oh, you're way ahead of us. Oh man, okay. All right. Tomas, how you doing, my friend? Thanks for coming. Good to see you. Anybody want to join me in the live chat? I'm just going to go ahead. I sent an email out to the people on my mailing list, but I think a lot of them have had a busy day. So let me go ahead and grab this link here. And I'll just put it up in the chat. And anybody that wants to come in and sit and join me on a panel, love to have you. It's much more fun doing this kind of thing when you got some people to talk to. So let me link for panel. There you go. Click on that, and and feel free to come in and join me. And hey, Chris Hope, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I figured that Mel's live stream ended, and there might be a whole bunch of guys out there that still have a Jonesing for another live stream. So I thought I'd come in here and quick throw one together, because there's some things I wanted to talk about, my continuing adventures with that DJI FPV stuff, and my new Nazgul5, which is the rage these days. And I got one and put it together and had some issues with it. I was really surprised. It's a great drone, but you just, and I'll talk about what happened, but you just can't take it out of the box and throw a battery on it and away you go. You'd be in a big bunch of trouble if you tried that. Hey, Jody Drone Shots, how you doing, my friend? Thanks for stopping in. I'll keep an eye. I put a link in the chat. Anybody want to come in here and sit and have a little conversation? Feel free. Don't be bashful. And I'll keep an eye out in the green room up here to see if anybody pops in there. We'll get you on. Oh, there comes somebody. Kiwi. All right. Hang on a second and I'll get you in. There you go.
Not the best looking, but anyway, it is what it is.
You got a pretty head. I like that.
We'll fix that.
Oh, there you go. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, man. We've been chatting a lot in the chat rooms, but I don't believe we ever had a live face to face.
No. We're getting out there slowly, but I had some fun yesterday. My wife saved a Golden Guitars Award sign that used to be up on the main street in Gore from the chipper. And she says, you can't chip that. That's an icon. And anyway, we saved it. We've had it for a year. And we passed it on to its forever home, which has gone back to Gore again. The guy that bought it, he's like a kid in a candy shop. He's so excited. Couldn't get it on his trailer quick enough, and he's gone. But I put a wee video up on it on my channel yesterday about him taking it away. So there we go.
Cool. Hey, what do you like to be called? I mean, you got a first name, or just call you Kiwi?
Yeah, what you call me, mate. You call me Mad, call me Kiwi, call me Craig.
Okay, Craig, that's it. Okay. Dr. Drone says you're looking great. And Drone Shots asked me a question here, and that's the hard part about doing this is I'm trying to keep, when you have a guest, you want to pay attention to your guest, and then the guys in the chat throwing questions at me. So if I feel like I'm old and it takes me a little while to absorb all this stuff all at once,
It's all right, mate. You just carry on with the chat and just pretend I'm in chat and you're talking to me on chat.
No, that's great. I'm glad you're here. Anyway, Jody, yeah, I have no way of knowing if it's working, if the 700 milliwatts is actually working, but it says that it is. And from what I understand, let me change this over this way to get a little wider view of both of us. Oh, you're straight up and down there. Okay. Oh, you're out mobile there. There you go. There's some VTX commands that you want to make sure you don't have turned on. And one of them is the command that says low power disarm. And on a regular analog quad, I use the low power disarm command to automatically increase the power when I arm the quad, and automatically kick it back to 25 milliwatts when I disarm the quad. And I think some of the guys that were having trouble with that, keeping the FPV, the DJI system, from actually going into 700 watts. But you do have a setting in the menu. It says you set 700, you set to 25, and then there's another setting that forget what it is. I haven't flown it yet. Low power something. And what it does is it monitors temperature and everything. And if the thing gets too hot, it actually kicks the power back a little bit to keep it from actually shutting itself down. So I'll let you know when I actually fly it. I'll certainly be able to tell whether I got 700 watts or not, milliwatts or not. But I've read up on it and watched a bunch of videos, and from what I understand, I think I've got it set up right. I hear some. Was that birds I hear?
Oh, we've got Rocky the cockatiel in his cage. He talks a lot.
Okay.
And we've got turkeys and guinea fowl, and it's
holy mackerel.
Start of the afternoon. But anyway,
holy mackerel! I think I felt like I just wandered into a barnyard. Anyway, let me talk about this. Let me talk about this thing here. This is the Nazgul 5. I don't know, Hugh, if you follow this stuff, the FPV stuff or not, but
I've been following it through the channels and you guys that are keen on it, but I'm not good enough to be flying those things. I find it hard enough to fly my Mavic Air.
Well, I'm learning with these things. Anyway, this thing came out from iFlight, and they, of course, sent them to all the royalty, all the usual suspects to review. And when they send these guys these drones to review, I'm sure they're all set up and test flown with receivers and just ready to go, because they want these guys to review them, throw links in there to Banggood and everything, and get the things out there and get, and for a period of 2 weeks, every one of these guys that is one of the chosen ones, is what I call them, was saying things like the best drone ever, it's incredible, blah 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 blah, and it was $179, without a receiver, and that's a hell of a price. That's a unbelievable price for a drone that's got a Cadex Ratel camera, which is a $35 camera. It's one of the best analog cameras going. It has the Xing XING motors. It had the iFlight 6X F4 controller board. Beautiful frame. Their antenna, VTX antenna. I think it's 800 milliwatt VTX in here. It beautiful with it comes with all the 3D printed TPU bumpers for the bottom of the arms, and there's a bumper on the back of the thing. It comes with the antenna mounts for your receivers, and a nice TPU piece. Let's see if I can show you that. That's underneath here. That has a slot for the receiver to go in. I mean, it's really a beautifully thought out quad. It's fairly light, and every one of these guys said this thing is the best flying quad. Guys like Albert Kim and Bardwell, Joshua Bardwell, all those guys got these things, and they all raved about them. So I said, "Oh, okay, I better get one before you can't get them anymore." So I'm gonna show you the Banggood page for this thing here.
The funny thing is, Mitch, they still haven't got helicopter skids underneath them yet. They've got bumpers all around them, but no skids on them.
Yeah, well, hopefully you don't need the skids. But at any rate, this is the Banggood deal, and now this is the one without the receiver, and this was $179 when I got it, and I had a 10% discount coupon, which took it down to about a little over $160, which is what I paid for the one I got here. If you get them with the receiver, it's $196. With the bigger bucks receiver, it's $204. And it's billed as it doesn't come with the GoPro mount, but that's an option you can buy for like $20. So this thing is billed as, you buy it, it's already built. It's supposedly already set up in Betaflight and tuned, and they're all bragging about what a great tune that it has on it, and how it's ready to go. And I said, well, that's great, because I had gotten, I normally build my clones, but I did buy an Emax Hawk 5 a while ago, and that thing, I had to put a receiver in it, but it had everything else, and I basically just threw the receiver in there, and I checked everything was set up right, everything was ready to go, but out flew it. This thing here, I decided today to get it ready to go. I didn't figure it'd take me 30 minutes. So the first thing I did was I had to put a receiver in it. So I had to take it apart. So I took the top plate off, and I took the antenna mount off the back, and it had a wire already in there with a socket on it for the receiver, but I wanted to solder it on. So I took the VTX off, and one thing I noticed right away when I took it apart was the screws on the top plate were loose. None of them were tightened. They were just loose. I said, oh, well, that's not right. So then I took it in and I plugged it into Betaflight. And for those of you guys who know FPV, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And the first thing I noticed in Betaflight was they had the motor directions reversed, which is very unusual. And if you don't know what that means, I'll explain it to you. On FPV quadcopter, if you're looking at it from the camera end, it starts they number the motors, and then it starts 1, 2 on the left side. 1 is the right rear, 2 is the right front, 3 I believe is the left front, and 4 is the left rear. And the 2 front props turn towards the camera. So these 2 props spin this way, okay? And they call that props in. And then the rear props do just the opposite. So everything is spinning towards the camera. There's a school of thought that they call props out, where they reverse the motor direction so that they're turning towards the side of the quad. And the rotation goes towards the side instead of rotating towards the front. And the idea is that when you're cutting grass and everything, you're not blowing all that crap into the camera. But the downside to this is you're blowing it all in your flight control or electronics. So I don't see any difference, and it's very rare to see a quad come set with the props in. I said, holy mackerel! So I went to the motors tab in Betaflight to check to see if the motors were spinning in the right direction, and they were all screwed up. They had not been set up. Three of the four motors, if it indeed was supposed to be props out, were spinning in the wrong direction. But either way, some of the motors were turning the wrong way. So if I had taken this thing and not checked all that and just put a battery, bound it up to a receiver, put a battery in it, I could have killed myself, because if you got a prop on backwards, that thing is just going to take off in some strange direction. So I said, well, I can't believe that pardon me?
I was just going to say, it puts a whole new word on ready to fly.
Yeah, and you're right, a lot of red. But I said, well, I don't want this thing props out. I can't see any reason. I mean, because all my other quads are props in. And why would I want one quad where I have to remember specifically that the props go on differently on that quad than all the other quads? You want to standardize it. You want to make sure that you get used to where to put the props. You have 2 props with pitch one way and 2 props with pitch the other way. From your experience, you put them on the wrong motor. Now, with DJI, they key them, so it's tough to do it. But with these things, it's just a spindle and a nut. You can put them anywhere. So I went in and I said, well, I better straighten it out. So I went in and went into this BL Heli suite and reversed the motors that needed to be reversed so they all ran properly, and unchecked the switch that said reversed motors, and there was nothing. I'm assuming the PID tuning is okay. It might just be stock default tuning for Betaflight 4. But I went and checked all that, and I installed the receiver and got it all set up, and I put it all back together, and I said, I better check the screws. All the screws on the bottom were loose. The motor screws were loose.
Yep.
And virtually every screw on this thing was not tight, and it's supposed to be out of the box. And I was shocked. Now I'm not disappointed in the quad. Drone Shot said you sure had the props right on the motor. Yes, yeah, Jody, I got the props right now, but I got it props in. I don't have it props out. I don't want to fly it props out. I want all my quads to be the same. So
I was going to say they don't make very good mining equipment, do they?
No, but these things, no. They dig some big holes though, won't they?
I'd say.
Yeah, but at any rate, I got it all straightened out. But it was for a ready to fly. It was the setup work was all exactly the same kind of work that I had to do on a custom build. And that's what I did. I just went through and made sure everything was set up right. Got the receiver in, and so hopefully the weather will be nice tomorrow. Maybe I'll take it out, rip it around a little bit, see how it goes. But
so what you do now, Mitch, is you go onto Banggood's site and you give them 0 rating, bad feedback, and all that, and they'll come back to you with another one.
Well, actually, they're selling them so fast they can't keep them in stock. And they've raised the price back up. But I actually bought another one during their big sale that they had last week, and it was and I got it for it hasn't shipped yet. I got it for $146. 146. You can't buy the pieces and build one of these things for less than $200 to buy one. So it doesn't bother me. There wasn't not a single piece of paper in the box, not a single bit of direction, not a user manual or data sheet other than the specs on their website, nothing on iFlight's website about it. It wasn't even on iFlight's website. It's that new. There wasn't even a product shown. Banggood is the only people that have it.
I'm just thinking, because all the screws were loose and everything, it's on a production line and it's whiz bang, whiz bang, whiz bang in the box, gone. Yeah. And yours was one of the ones that never got tightened up and it was thrown in the box and gone.
Well, but but I kept thinking back to the praise that all of these reviewers gave it about how well it was built and how perfect it flew and how the tune was, everything was just set up exactly right. And that's what I expected. And well, of course, yeah, you get it. But you know what's going to happen, unfortunately, is I'm not the only guy that's going to get one of these. So
I hope Dan gets one.
Which Dan?
Dan, Drone Worship.
Drone Worship. Oh, Dan, yeah. Well, he knows enough to make it right. Yep. They should at least have a piece of paper in there that gives you a clue. A diagram of the flight controller would be nice to show where the pin out, where the solder points are. One piece of paper that says this quad is set for props out, which is extremely unusual. And what happened is, even if they had all the motors going in the right direction for props out, the way they had it, they had either way, there was going to be one motor that was turning in the wrong direction, which would have caused that thing to just flip out, But a piece of paper, even a data sheet or a spec sheet or something available online, I looked all over, there's nothing. And it's a good thing that I know something about how these things, and I'm new at this too, but I've built 4 or 5 of these things already, so I've learned. But you have to actually build this thing. Anyway, let me take a second here and stop ranting and say hi to Steve Carpenter. Anyway, how you doing, buddy?
Mitch, got to go and do wife duty, so I've got to
Oh, okay.
cut you loose. Sorry, mate, but
Oh, no,
nice to be
Kiwi.
on your show.
Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Good to meet you, man. Good to
Yeah,
meet
no
you.
worries, but I've got to go and get some bark chippings for the wife. She's doing gardening, so there we go.
All right, my friend. You take care.
Have a
See
good
you
one,
later.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care.
You too, bud. Where are we? There we go.
Okay, it's back to just me. Anyway, let me say hi. Chris Hope's here. Red Dog Drones. How you doing? How you doing? Good to see you. And Peter Carroll's in here. Steve Carpenter. Hi, Steve. How you doing? Red Dog, Steve Carpenter, Tomas. Place it here. How you doing? I thought you had to go to sleep in Mel's live stream. I was watching Mel's live stream when you said you had to go to sleep. So go to sleep already. Let's see. Live stream from the new book. Papa Joe W. How you doing? How you doing, my friend? At any rate, that was a real surprise with that ready to fly drone, and I don't know. I got another one coming. Probably won't get here for a month. When you buy something from Baggood, it just takes quite a while to get here. But we'll see if it's the same thing or if they get their act together. But if they don't, there's going to be an awful lot of this stuff, and I haven't seen any of it on YouTube. So I figured that I'd throw that Nazgul iFlight Nazgul5 in the keywords of this video, and with issues after it, and maybe somebody who's researching this thing will come across this live stream and get to see what my experience was with it. However, all that being said, after I did get it all put together, it's a gorgeous little drone with really top quality stuff in it, and it's beautifully made. They should bill it as a kit instead of a ready to fly, and they'd be more accurate. But even so, I'm not unhappy with it. I really like it, and I think it probably ought to fly pretty good. So that's the Nazgul. That's the Nazgul5, and that was one of my adventures today. The other adventure, I'll get to in a second. Let me put the link for the chat back in the stream. I don't know why I have a hard time getting people to come in here and be on my panel. I go to all these other live streams and I see panels full of people, and I don't know. I won't take it personally though. Anyway, I put the link in the chat if you'd like to come in and make a panel. Sometimes I get 4 or 5 people. Sometimes it's just me. Anyway, this one here. This is the FPV, the DJI FPV drone, and I did the live stream build on this the other night and made a few mistakes. Got a few things backwards, and I thought that probably wouldn't be a bad idea to correct the record. And the one thing that I got backwards was a silly mistake, and I want to see if I can find the manual for this here. There it is. So let me get down to this page and go over to this screen here. And here it is, this page right here. I don't know if you guys can read all this, but when I wired this thing up, as you know, the air unit wires into the flight controller to a UART, a serial UART, so that it can know telemetry and data from the flight controller. For example, it needs to know when you arm the quad. it needs to know the battery voltage, for example. And hopefully, if they get their act together and modify the firmware of this thing, it will have access to all the telemetry data that you normally see in your goggles. And a lot of that stuff is really handy. The RSSI, the signal strength, and I like StreamYards. I gotta peek over my old guy thing. What I ought to do is hang on a second. You know, I said I moved myself over to that side of the screen because when I was in Hangouts, the Hangouts stuff was on the other side. And now that I'm using StreamYard, they got my name, they got the name stuck in this side. So let me go to this and redecorate myself here. How's that? There you go. Okay. But that's the wrong screen. So let's see. I want the oh, what did I do? Uh-oh. Bear with me a second, guys. Yeah, there it is. Okay. I moved the wrong one. So stick with me a second, and there we are. Okay. Now, I was talking about the UART serial interface from the DJI Air unit to the flight controller board. And on all of these UARTs, there's two wires. There's a receive and a transmit. And the receive on whatever you're hooking up goes to the transmit on the board, on the flight controller. The flight controller transmits it to the device that receives it, and vice versa. So I went ahead here, if you see the mouse, I saw the white, it says white UART RX. Now, the UART is on the flight controller board. So I said, okay, what they're saying here is connect the white to the UART RX. Now, that would be, if you're not familiar with this stuff, it may confuse you a little bit, but if something connects to the RX UART on the flight controller, it's coming from the TX, the transmit pin of whatever device you're hooking up. But that wouldn't be a UART. That would be the air unit TX, and the RX would be the UART RX. So what they said here by calling it the UART RX leads you to believe that that's the RX on the flight controller. And that's not what they meant. Now, if I had read further, they wrote here, connects to flight controller OSD TX. Now, this whole thing is very, very, very nebulous and very confusing. And you could, depending on how you read it, it doesn't tell you with any certainty which way to hook it up. What it should say here is white wire. It should say air unit TX connects to UART RX on flight controller. And then you wouldn't make the mistake. But long story short, I hooked it up backwards. And when I fired it up, when I finally got the whole quad together and fired it up, it didn't work. It would not, it wasn't getting any voltage information. I wouldn't sense the arm switch. So I had to troubleshoot that. That ended up taking an hour or two to take the whole quad back apart. And if anybody watches this video who's building one of these DJI FPV things, look out for that one step, because it's critical that you get it right. It can't cause any damage hooking it up wrong. It just simply won't work. So the white wire coming from the DJI Air unit connects to the TX pad on the flight controller. And conversely, the gray wire connects to the RX pad. And I just wanted to get that out there for the record, because I did make that mistake in my video the other night, and I'm wondering if anybody might decide they want to follow my video step by step and end up screwing themselves too. So I did want to come out and correct the record on that. Okay, now Rick Halber, I just got the Viper goggles. Which antenna did you use with the Whoops drone in your house and outside? Is there one better to use? Really, Rick, the antennas, if you're just starting out, you're not going to be flying all that far away. And those little dipole antennas that they come with, I used them for the first month or two I was flying, had no trouble with them at all. They work just fine. You don't really need to start getting these fancier antennas until you're going to be outside flying behind trees and everything else. You'll get a little noise in the goggles, but I wouldn't start investing any money in fancy antennas at this point until you learn a little bit and decide that this is really something you like. Because I think that, this is a very technical hobby, and depending on how deep you want to get into it, it can become very consuming, and it's just not for everybody. And I'm sure a lot of guys think it would be a lot of fun, start out, get frustrated, and give it up. So it'd be better to do all that before you spend a lot of money. So I think the two dipole antennas that come with the Vipers, I've got this is the Viper display screen. You see that they sell it as it's the same screen. If you take this out of here, this is what goes in your goggles, Rick. Same exact unit, and I think it's like $95. You buy it. It comes with this stand, and it's nice to have because you can use it when you're working on the quads to see what the quad is outputting without having to put the goggles on. And when I go out to the flying field, I take this thing with me. It's good for public relations because these guys who fly model airplanes think that us quad pilots are a pain in the ass and always getting in the way. So I set this down on the table when I fly, and I say to the guys, "Hey, you want to see what I'm seeing? Follow along." And they all gather around and they enjoy it. And then I'm not the bad guy. So in that respect, it's pretty handy. And I use it in the workshop when I'm working on the quads, setting up the OSD and making sure the camera's working and everything else. And these are the antennas that come with the goggles, and they work great, especially with a little whoop quad that's got one of these little dipole antennas on it anyway. So when it comes to these analog transmission systems, you want to try to match up the antennas anyway. If you're transmitting with a dipole would be one of the best ways to receive it. If you're transmitting with a right-hand circular polarized pagoda, then you would want a right-hand circular polarized antenna on the receiving end. And then they have what they call patch antennas, which are flat and they're very directional, and they have a high gain. And you see the guys with the goggles, they have one pagoda sticking up, and then they also have one of those flat patches thing. And if you keep your head pointed at the drone, you're going to get a better image through the patch antenna. But until you're out there flying through concrete buildings and behind trees and all that stuff, you don't need that. So Red Dog, so remember that start smaller and cheaper till you learn more, then progress. That's sage advice. Very, very good sage advice. And I don't know, Rick, if you're going to get hooked on this like I did, but it's crazy, but it is, but I am enjoying it. If you can't tell, I guess you can. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I really am. I think it's a great hobby. But it's been, in a lot of respects, this has been my hobby all my life. I've been in RC for 50 plus years. And so this is an extension of just another avenue of the RC hobby. So it's probably very easily understood that I would become addicted to it. Aerial landscapes, how you doing? You stick out like a sore thumb in the chat because you're not a moderator. So let's see if we can fix that. Okay. Now, let me tell you, another thing that I knew was going to be a downside to the DJI FPV system, and that is the lack of information in the on-screen display. The on-screen display in the analog feed is tremendously useful. Now, we've talked about this before. You can take it to any extreme that you want. Some guys are minimalists. They all they care about is what they absolutely need to know to keep the quad from falling out of the sky. And the two most important things you need to know is your battery voltage and your signal strength from your radio to the quad, because either one of those things is gone and you're going to fall out of the sky. And they'll stick them down in the lower corners and want to see the whole picture. Other guys like me who are technical nuts and like a lot of information can put timers, can put average cell voltage up there. You can put an indication of where your throttle is. There's got to be 30 or 40 different things you can throw up there. If you have a GPS unit like I have in the back of this DJI equipped quad, that can be used for GPS rescue, which is a kind of return to home, but nothing like we're used to with the DJI camera drones. And it's not designed for that. It's designed to be what they say it is. It's a rescue. Hang on, let me. I see something in the chat here. Two-stroke me. How you doing? Have you seen the Get FPV antenna bundle for the DJI goggles? They claim 50% better performance. No, I haven't seen that yet, but you have to know that somebody's going to come out with it. And I think I'm going to fly it, not real long range first, just to feel it out with the antennas that come on the goggles, because I did see a video with some guy that had crap growing out to here, and it was the dumbest looking thing I ever saw. But I think maybe if you're going to do long range stuff, that's fine. One of the issues, the interesting things about these goggles is the connectors on the antennas on the goggles. Not only are they left-hand polarized antennas, which you don't find very often. Most people use right hand. Not that it makes any difference, but right hand seems to be what the majority of them are. But there's two kinds of SMA connectors. This is an SMA connector right here, okay? And this one has a pin in it. So the socket on the other side here has a hole. And when you screw this in, the center pin goes down into the hole, and that's called an SMA antenna. Then they have what they call RP SMA. And RP means reverse polarity. And they take the pin and stick it up in the socket, and in the antenna it's got the hole. That's more unusual, but you still see it. I don't know what the benefit of one over the other is, but if you're not careful and you've got two connectors with each one of them has a hole in it, you're going to have no connection. If you have each one of them has a pin, you're going to bend it all up when you try to put it together. And for some strange reason, DJI, here, let me get the goggles here. For some strange reason, DJI elected to put the hole in the antenna as opposed to put the pin in the antenna. And so it's an RP SMA connector. And I just know for sure that some guys are going to get all screwed up because of that. If they don't think about it, they'll go grab the wrong antenna off of something and plug it in and crash their quad because they actually had no antenna then. Another thing about these goggles, which is really, really bad design, is this power connector right up here, because it can fall out and be pulled out really easily, and you could be in the middle of flying and bump into something or somehow, and all of a sudden the whole thing gets shut off. So what I did was I tie wrapped. Let me see if I can show this to you. I tie wrapped. Where is it? Right there. I tie wrapped the wire to the mount for the strap. So no matter how you pull on the wire, and I'm not going to ever unplug this plug. I'm going to power the goggles the same way that I power the drone, by just plugging the battery into in and out of the XT60 connector. So that means I'll be leaving the wire on the goggles, and I found that the antennas make a very nice little wiring spool to wrap it up like this. See, wrap the wires around around there. I tried. I put a video on the SD card in the goggles to see how the playback worked, and stuck a little headphone in it, and that worked fine. It was like sitting in front of a drive-in movie theater. And let's see here. Two Stroke Me says, "Have you seen the antennas?" No, I'll look at the antennas. Okay, Red Dog says, "Break it down, the pros and cons." Well, the pros are obvious. It takes. I haven't flown with it yet, but from just putting the goggles on and pointing the drone around, it's the experience, the immersion of it is almost religious. It is absolutely, you can't describe the difference between the feeling you get seeing the image in a normal pair of analog goggles, and then seeing what amounts to like a huge screen right in front of your head that makes you feel like you're in it instead of back looking at it. It's like being in it. And I get the same feeling with the DJI goggles on my Mavics. And any of you guys that have flown the goggles on the Mavics will know what I'm talking about there. I think it's probably the same screens. I went back and took a look at my white DJI goggles, and the image looks just the same. I mean, same size and everything else. So I think they've taken the same screens from those goggles and built them into these goggles. But these focus better. The new goggle design, I with my glasses on and everything, I actually can see all the way to the edges sharp, whereas in the other DJI goggles, the edges were a little out of focus. So they've improved the optics a little bit, and that experience is fabulous. I have watched just a ton of videos, and watched the goggle recordings, and they appear to be as or more reliable a feed than the analog, and the latency is not an issue. And they have this what they call focus mode, which when the signal starts to get weak and things start to pixelate, it lets the outer image pixelate and concentrates on using what power it has to keep what's in the center sharp. So I think it's probably going to be as good or better a flying experience. One of the downsides is if you go out flying with a lot of your buddies, and one of the things about FPV is everybody's got a pair of goggles, and you can just tune in on anybody's drone and watch what they're doing, and that kind of enhances the enjoyment of the hobby for for most people who go flying with a group of people, because they can all ride along with everybody's flight. Not everybody has the DJI goggles yet, and you can't look at normal analog feed. Now you can, if you get a ground station or portable receiver and plug it into the AV input into the DJI goggles. You'll be able to do that just the same way I can take this. If I wanted to go out to any flying field where anybody's flying FPV, I turn this thing on and tune it into whatever channel they're flying, and I could watch them flying. And but for me, that's not a problem, because I don't fly with other FPV flyers, and so I'm not going to be missing out on anything. They're okay comfortable. They need to improve the foam around the edge, and there's been a lot of complaints about that. Different face shapes, guys get a lot of light leak in them, but they're so bright I can't imagine you notice the light leak. Tomas, the goggles are 720p, and there's two different settings. Oh, there's Carlos there. Okay, I'll get you in 1 second, Carlos, as I finish this thought. There's two different. There's a high quality mode and a low latency mode, and the low latency mode, I believe, I don't know which is which. I haven't really fooled with them that much, but they're both 720 feeds, but one of them's 120 frames a second, the other 60 frames a second, and one of them is a little sharper than the other. And they have that same thing on the DJI goggles for the Mavics, for the other drones too. Two-stroke me, the kit. Sorry, I apologize for not keeping up with the chat here. The kit converts the goggles and air unit to SMA and comes with RHCP. Oh, that kit at Get FPV. I'll have to look that up and see and see what you're talking about. But right now, I'm not going to improve it any. I want to try to fly it the way it is, and so I can give people or form an impression or an opinion of how it is. And you gotta remember, I'm not Joshua Bardwell. I'm not a 5-year veteran of these things. I'm almost brand spanking new at this and learning along with all the other guys. So I can just give you my opinion from where I am in this hobby at this point. I absolutely love the DJI setup. It trumps my HDOs big time. Two-stroke me. Do you have the DJI setup yet? Two-stroke me. All right, let me bring in my good buddy Carlos.
Came to read the chat for you so you're not all overwhelmed.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I guess this is a pretty good idea to just jump on here. I have a lot more participation tonight than I had. I guess later at night is better timing than the earlier streams. What do you think?
Especially on the weekends, I would think.
A lot of live streams, though.
Well, this I think piques people's interest.
What, the DJI stuff?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, and that's why I decided that I wanted to do a series. And
I want to see it up in the air.
I do too. I'm hoping. Well, you know.
I'm just messing with you. You don't have to answer that.
Talk to Umberto. Call Umberto on the phone and ask him how long he intends to hang around the neighborhood.
Oh, hello, Thomas O'Sullivan.
Oh man, yeah.
So
can you wear your glasses, and does it add to the light leakage? Okay, that was Red Dog asked that. That was my main concern of these things, because I can't use the Fat Shark style goggles. I would have to fiddle around to get just the right diopters made for them. The DJI goggles, the older ones, do fit over my glasses, no problem. But it took me the longest time when this thing was first announced. It was the longest time to actually find out if you could
Wear glasses.
Wear them over glasses. Yeah. Drone Shots just says, Mitch, you might have another storm. Oh, no, we're used to that. It's this time of year. It's like a bowling alley from Africa to here, and I'm used to it. And some of them come close. Most of them peter out or go a different direction. We just, it's all part of the excitement of living in Florida.
I love my drones real quick. That's what Spike calls me, Conrad. So I put it in.
Conrad. Yeah, Spike calls him Conrad. But I'm gonna take my earphones off for 1 second and show you how these things fit over my glasses. So I won't put the head strap on, but I'll turn sideways. There's actually no difference about how they go on my head with or without the glasses. The glasses are totally inside the foam around the outside. So if there's any light leak, and there's a little, it's not that bad. But if there's light leak with the glasses, it would be exactly the same without the glasses. Now I do have relatively small glasses. Carlos, your glasses are much bigger, and they may not fit in there as easily. But if you have this,
are they much? Maybe. I guess.
Yeah, and the frames are. You don't want to have these big frames. They might work though. I mean, looking at those things and looking at your glasses, they might fit, but it might bang around in there a little more. These things don't touch anything inside, and it works perfectly. I see sharp as hell.
I think it's going to be a while before I consider that. I'm happy with my analog for now.
Well, yeah. I don't think this is for everybody, and
not only that, but I have to feed my wife and son. So
yeah, I'm an old retired bachelor, and I don't have anybody. You're not going to buy those things, are you?
Oh no, that part's okay, but I have money to spend in other places.
I'm sure you do. But
so. You have it all hooked up, and you're ready to just go up and fly next. That's the
it's all ready to go. I got the motors, everything spun up. I was going to take it outside today and just do a little line of sight with it, but it was just blowing.
That's no fun.
It's not for fun. It's to test.
Oh, to see if everything
to make sure everything's working right. Actually, I enjoy flying line of sight because that's how I fly RC. I fly RC airplanes line of sight, helicopters line of sight. These are a little tough to see, unfortunately.
Was there a lot of soldering involved? I didn't get to see you build it.
Yeah, well, on this one, this was a regular build, so yeah, I had to solder everything to the flight controller, but I had already had this drone built.
The DJI unit was
there's six wires I had to solder, 5 wires.
Got it.
There's 6 wires that come out of the air unit, but since I'm not using their transmitter or their receiver in the air unit, I'm using my Tyrannus radio. I didn't have to hook up the S-bus wire, the receiver wire.
Got it.
But I did have to hook it up to the UART of the flight controller. And that's where I screwed up and got them backwards because their instructions can be interpreted however you want. Either way, you can make a case. Were
you able to, I don't know, is it Betaflight and get it up to 700 milliwatts?
Well, the one thing you want to do in Betaflight is you want to turn off the low power disarm. Because all my quads that have smart audio, I have them set with low power disarm, and I don't know. Whoa! Don't fall down now. And I don't know if you know what that means.
About that,
but that ups the transmitter power when you arm the quad, and then reduces it when you disarm. Are yours set up that way?
No, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'd be honest.
They probably aren't then. But it's really nice because when the quads
can go up to 200 and 400 milliwatts on my on 2 of my quads.
But the way you set it up is that you go into, how you can change the power settings through smart audio, right, through the goggles. Have you done that?
That's how I do it. I do it with smart audio.
All right. When you make a change with smart audio,
Save and reboot.
Whether you know it or not, it saves that change to the flight controller.
Oh, okay.
And when you fire the quad up the next time,
It'll always be there.
It'll always be where it was.
I've noticed that.
And you can make that change in Betaflight as well. And in Betaflight, at the bottom on the left is a thing called CLI, Command Line Interface. Okay. In fact, I'll show you, because this is it's interesting. A lot of guys hate Betaflight, but let me come over here to this, and let me plug a quad in. I'm gonna plug in my new Nazgul5 to the computer, and I want to open it up. Okay, so this shows, so I can
real quick, Rick Halber is leaving. He's thanking you. He said, Mitch, thank you so much for the great advice and information on the goggles. Got to run now, but we'll see you during the week.
Oh,
Love
okay.
your live streams.
Good. Thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. And Rick, if you, not that I'm the greatest expert, but you know what they say, that anybody that's like 3 hours ahead of you is an expert. You You think they're an expert anyway. But my email address is in the is oldguyinadrone@gmail.com, and it's on in every one of my videos in the description. Email me with your phone number or something, and we'll connect. And you can call me if you have any questions about anything. I'd be happy to help you. So do that if you'd like. And Night Train is here. How you doing? What did he say?
Betaflight is the standard.
Betaflight is the standard. Yeah, it is. It really has become the standard. So anyway, when I got here, this new Nazgul came with Betaflight 4.04, and they're up to 4.06 now. But next month they're supposed to drop 4.1, which has all kinds of new stuff in it. So I'm not going to flash this one yet. I'm just going to leave it with the 4.04. But what I was talking about was way down here at the bottom. See where it says CLI?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to make it full screen.
Better.
Make it easier. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So down here it says CLI. And then right down here is a command line. Okay. And I think it's down behind the Mitch Old Guy thing. At any rate, I'll type, see where the mouse is. It's behind where it says Mitch Old Guy. But I'm gonna type get VTX and hit enter. Okay. Now what it did was it went and got every command that has VTX somewhere in it. Okay. And here it says VTX channel equals 3, VTX band equals 4, VTX power equals 3. Okay, so if you've got a VTX that has 4 different powers, 25, 100, 200, and 600, let's say.
Right.
The way it is now, 1 would be 25, 2 would be 100, 3 would be 200, and 4 would be 600, whatever it is.
There's
the
a
newest
400 in there somewhere.
Yeah, the newest. Well, that's the problem. All these different VTXs can only map to one number, and a lot of times they don't match up. But they fixed that in the new version Betaflight 4.1. There's a table where you're actually going to tell Betaflight, okay, these are the settings. These are how much power I have available in my VTX. Setting 1 would be this, setting 2 would be that, and it'll communicate better with that. But in this case, of the 4 power settings, this is set to the 3rd one. And I think on this particular VTX, it might be 600 watts. I don't know. I have to look. I usually set them at the next to the highest power. Usually set them to 3. And then the next thing here says VTX low power disarm equals, and the default is off. Now, if you go into Betaflight with one of your quads that has smart audio, now it has to have smart audio because otherwise the flight controller can't tell the VTX what to do. There's no connection. But if you have smart audio, you can go in here and you can type in the bottom of the command line down at the bottom here. You would say set VTX power equals whatever you want the power to be when you're flying.
Oh, and it's constant then.
And you'll never have to go into smart audio and change it. It'll always knows that when you're flying, you want to be at power level 3. And then you said VTX low power disarm equals on. And what that tells the quad is when the quad is armed, you go to the power, set the VTX to the power setting that it says in here, 3. When the quad is disarmed, set it to the lowest possible power setting.
And the advantage of that is not burning.
Right. The advantage of that is if you crash your quad
mm-hmm.
and it takes you, then your transmitter isn't sitting there running at high power for a half an hour, burning itself up, running down the battery while you try to find the quad.
Okay.
When you disarm the quad, it'll automatically reduce the power of the video transmitter back to the lowest. So if you do crash your quad or lose it somewhere, you at least know that you can disarm it, at least if it's still got the battery. If the battery's thrown, then it doesn't matter. But if the battery's still hooked up to it, you know you can disarm it and lower the power of the VTX. So you don't burn anything up.
Do you have yours set that you can arm even if you're upside down, or
yes, yes, always.
Yeah.
The arm. I always set the arming angle to 180. Gotcha. And of course I want to be able to do that because I want turtle mode to work. And if it's stuck upside down in a tree,
right,
I want to be able to see if I can't wobble it around and get it out of there. Right. The worst that happens, you break a prop. But no, I don't want.
Have you ever used turtle mode? Have you ever needed to use turtle mode?
I've used it. I've never needed it other than with the whoops, and with the little whoops, yeah, it works great. I'll flip them over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ed says there are numerous issues to doing that.
No, pluses to doing that, he said.
Oh, pluses. There goes my eyes. Oh, well.
Yeah, numerous pluses. And I guess he's talking about the VTX arming thing.
Right.
But we got onto that because we were talking about the DJI goggles. And there was an issue that they would not go into the 700 milliwatt mode. And somebody said that they found out that the reason they weren't was that the VTX command, that low power disarm, was screwing it up. So it suggested that you turn the low power disarm equals off. So you see, if I take this, I'm going to plug in my DJI quad now, okay, into the computer. All right, so now I've got the quad with the DJI system plugged in. We open up Betaflight, go back over to here, and connect to the drone, and go back to the CLI and type get VTX. You see up here, it says VTX low power disarm equals off. Okay. And it says VTX power equals 1. And that's an issue that I don't know if that even matters with the DJI. Maybe that might keep it at 25. I don't know. I think, tell you what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to say, I want to do this just for grins. I'm going to say, type set.
Good night, Thomas. Just for the record.
Oh, Thomas. Good night. It's about the middle of the morning for them over there, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to set the VTX power to 4, just for grins. So you hit enter, and then you type save. Because if you don't type save, it doesn't save the command. Then it reboots the quad. So now if I go down to the CLI and type get VTX, it says that my VTX power is 4. And the VTX low power disarm equals off. So hopefully we'll see. But I'll be able to tell very quickly what I'm flying, whether I got 25 milliwatts or 700 milliwatts. I was talking... let me take a second here, Carlos, and read the chat a little bit. Okay. The power gig up at low power, you get video signal, and you know you're close. Oh yeah, when you're trying to find the quad,
Right.
that's another advantage. But if you still have connection to it, you could go into smart audio and lower the power down to 25 milliwatts. So this just does it for you automatically. I was talking about the OSD and the fact that I don't have the information. And normally it's okay. You can fly with the R9 receiver that I have, the long range 900 megahertz radio that I'm using. I'm not worried about range. That thing's got a range of miles. So where I'm going to be flying this FPV quad is never going to stress that part of the range. If there's a malfunction or something, it might fail safe. But as far as flying out of range, I'm not going to do that. But I do have the battery voltage showing. And it is the DJI system is getting the battery voltage from the flight controller. So what I did on it is the R9 is a telemetry receiver. So I hooked the telemetry up to the flight controller from the receiver, and now I have all that telemetry available in my radio, and I can actually set alerts and alarms or look down on the screen and see any of that telemetry, see the GPS coordinates, see what my relative signal strength is, all that stuff. I can see that on. So I do have access to that. But the one thing when I was playing with it today that I found was cumbersome. When you
Papa Joe, right? Papa Joe asked, "What TX are you using?"
I'm using the
QX7S.
QX7S, yeah, with the R9 module. See the red R9 module in the back, and that special. See the antenna for the R9 module.
And Blizzard said TBS Micro. Not sure what that means.
Well, TBS is Team Black Sheep. I don't see that
Above Drone Obsessed.
No,
Jerry.
No. Oh, hey, Jerry. How you doing? I saw your little, did you see Jerry's little video with his 2S Tiny Hawk today flying around the playground? That was pretty cool. The Team Black Sheep Micro TX. No, there is no VTX in the DJI build. There's only the DJI Air unit that replaces the VTX of the camera and even the receiver if you want to use their transmitter. But this quad has a GPS in the back. And when you put a GPS in one of these quads and set up GPS rescue, it will not let you arm the quad until you've acquired a certain minimum number of satellites. Because
this depends on satellites now?
Well, it is for rescuing. If you want to have the GPS available for a fail-safing to turn around and fly home, it has to know where home is, and it can't determine where home is until it gets a fix when you first turn it on. So just like the DJI drones won't take off until they acquire the satellites.
So that needs satellites before you can fly?
It needs satellites before you can arm if you elect to use the GPS rescue. Now you can turn that off if you want.
Okay, and then you can just go up wherever, whenever.
Yeah, I mean, I can go into Betaflight and say turn off the GPS completely, and it won't have any effect. But as long as it's there, as long as it's on, and it knows it's going to rely on it, if in a fail-safe situation, it's set up to require a GPS fix. That happens pretty quick, usually within 5 or 10 seconds. But when I have my on-screen display with the analog goggles, I have the GPS all the GPS information in the OSD, number of satellites, an arrow that points to the home direction. So I can tell at any time which way home is. It's point to me, how far I am from the home point, what my altitude is, what my airspeed is, all coming from the GPS. And that information is very handy to have if you're flying.
Will you be able to record that information?
Well, if you're recording in your goggles and that's on the screen, it'll be on the screen. Now,
that's cool.
Interestingly enough, none of that stuff is available in the DJI goggles, and yet all the GPS stuff will still work. You just won't know much. So I can get that information on my radio, but I can't be looking down at my radio while I'm flying. But right. I can set key things to trigger a voice alert on my radio, like a low RSSI or an altitude above 400 feet, or things like that. And the radio itself, the Tyrannus, will say to me, altitude is greater than 400 feet or whatever. Whether I want to do that, I don't know. But what I did do, I came up, I had a stroke of genius. Not a stroke, but a stroke. I had a stroke. I had a stroke of, well, there's strokes of luck too, I did have a stroke, and I said, the OSD is still here on the controller board. And the only thing when I fire it up is I want to make sure I get enough satellites, and I want to see what it's doing, but I can't see what it's doing. The one thing in telemetry it won't tell me on my radio is the number of satellites, of all things. It has everything else, but it doesn't have number of satellites. So what I did was I took, and if you look on the back there, there's a tiny little white connector sticking out. See it?
Yeah.
That's a little 3-pin connector. And I wired that to where the VTX goes, the video transmitter. And then I took a little video transmitter. See?
Oh, okay.
And put a little antenna on it and put a plug on the end of the wire that I can just plug it into the back of this when it's sitting on the bench out at the flying field. And then I can have my little monitor here. Mm-hmm. There won't be a camera. There's no camera feeding the there's no analog camera. There's only the camera on the digital system. But all of the OSD stuff will still show up on a black background. So I'll be able to see on this screen before I fly, just to check to make sure I got all the satellites I need, that the mode switches worked. And if I want to, I won't do this every time probably, but if I have a question about something, I thought that would be a handy way to work around to be able to still see that OSD information before I fly, if I feel like I have the need to. Whether I ever will have the need to or not, it was just something to do. I thought would be kind of cool to have the potential to do it. And this little thing is certainly no big deal to carry around with you.
Right.
And I'm going to start flying some FPV airplanes. So this little video transmitter and a little tiny video camera is all I need to put in an airplane. So I could just stick this in an RC airplane, and it'll work. It'll do what I need it to do. This will go up to, I think, 400 milliwatts. This little tiny thing.
Mitch, quick question. Since you're somewhat dependent, or you're counting on the satellites, let's say how sometimes you fly and all of a sudden it turns into ADI mode. Will your quad have ADI mode, or will it come home, or what? No,
happens? it just what'll happen is if
it's not going to drop, I hope
it'll drop. Yeah. In other words, fail safe on a FPV quad normally is drop. That's the safest thing to do. You don't want it to, there are other things you can do, but to try to get it to anticipate it, to try to fly somewhere. The GPS rescue thing is pretty crude compared to DJI because they're just using the basic information, and it knows the heading to the home point. It knows the distance to the home point. You tell it what altitude to climb to when you go into rescue mode. And you can trigger rescue mode with a switch too. So if for some reason you're out there flying and you're way out there and all of a sudden you lose your video feed completely, you can't see anything, goggles go black, your video transmitter takes a crap. Normally, you just have to crash wherever you are. But with the GPS rescue thing, you click the switch. As soon as you lose your feed, you click the switch to GPS rescue. The quad's going to shoot up to whatever 150 feet and turn around and start coming back to you. Take your goggles off your head, look up at the sky,
look for it,
and it's going to be flying right back towards you.
Wow.
When you see it, when it gets close enough, you turn off the GPS rescue, throw it into angle mode, the stabilized mode, so you don't have to worry. You know, you can let go of the sticks and it'll stay there, or it won't stay in position, but it won't go crashing into the ground either. And then fly it back to yourself. That's why it's good to practice line of sight with these things, because you may have to bring it back line of sight one day. But that's
will that quad be TFR restricted when it's up and, you know?
There's no communication from this quad to anybody.
Oh, okay.
So if you obey the laws, it's because you're a law-abiding citizen.
Well, yeah.
But Big Brother is not watching.
Okay.
DJI is not reporting your flight to the FAA or anything. Nobody knows unless they somehow they have somebody that sees you flying and makes a phone call or picks you up somehow on radar. You don't have to worry about no-fly zones, but you should. I mean, I'm not advocating at all that you take these things out and fly them around in places where you really shouldn't be flying them, but.
And I would think more of the TFRs are height restrictions than anything. So
how high do you really fly your drone? 200 feet, 100 feet, 200. You do a big power loop, you go up to 200 feet. We're not the problem. We're not the problem. With ideas like these, Papa Joe says, I'm going to be nipping at Bardwell's heels before you know. Yeah, no.
Hey, you never know.
Oh, I don't want to work that hard. That guy is he's a techie guy, computer guy. I mean, he is tech savvy to the nth degree, and it is a perfect fit for him. And I watched his live stream. In fact, Jerry was Caldwell was on his live stream this afternoon. I saw him in the chat room, and Ken Hurren was in there, believe it or not. Ken Hurren was in Joshua Bardwell's chat room because he's probably getting hooked on this FPV stuff too. And you more than anybody else, Carlos, know how addictive this is.
Oh, big time.
And I'm just afraid that this DJI thing is going to take it. I think it's going to take it to the next level. I don't think it's going to do away with analog because of the cost of it and the fact that it needs bigger drones, and there's so many tiny drones. But you know that in the next year or two, these things are going to keep shrinking down before next thing you know, you'll have a digital 55 millimeter whoop with digital signal.
I think if DJI was smart, or even the competition, they'd come out with a switch where you can go both digital and 5.8.
That was my first major disappointment, because they already did that. The goggles, right? The RE goggles had an analog receiver and a digital. Why they didn't put an analog receiver module in this thing is beyond me, because they would sell just a ton more goggles. They could probably sell these goggles to guys that don't even use the digital side of it, because they got such beautiful pictures in them.
Right.
And
that's because Big Brother's watching you. Trust me.
I think that all that stuff is coming. You know, I've always been an early adopter in my life when it comes to technology. You know, I'm surprised I waited this long to get these things. I'm usually the guy that gets them on the first day. I got the first CD player that was sold in the state of Florida. I got it back in the 70s or the 60s, whenever it was, when CDs first came out.
Right.
It was a Philips CD player.
Probably pretty expensive back then.
$1,000. and nobody had even heard of it. There weren't any CDs. The only CDs that were available were some classical stuff from Japan with Japanese writing all over the boxes, and I still have them. I have all of those original first CDs that came out, and I had the first one. They were announced. I pre-ordered the thing and I got the first one. So I had the first CD player, and I've been like that all my life. Whatever it is, the first iPhone had to have the first one when it first came out. Now I don't use iPhones anymore, but I had to have the first one. And I've always been that way. When the Mavic 2 came out, I was on the phone. I mean, on the computer ordering it while they were having the event in New York. You know.
But sometimes it's actually better off waiting in case
you
there's
think?
bugs.
You think? Of course
No,
it is. Of course it is. I can't help myself. I mean, it's just the way I am. I can't help myself.
Okay.
And which is why it's amazing. I waited 4 weeks to get these things. I normally I would be ordering this stuff right off the bat, but there were some questions that I had to have answered, that like, can I wear the glasses and things like that, you know, that would have made them totally useless to me. So I did wait on, but I couldn't wait anymore. I watched these videos and I saw that image. So the guy said, oh man, that's what I'm looking for. I want that immersive. I want to be in that drone. I don't want to be watching a television picture of what the drones see, and I want to be in the drone. I'm a pilot. I flew all my life. I want to try to recoup some of that feeling of actually flying. And
I want to see some, if you can, some of the telemetry as far as speed, even when you get around to it.
Well, you won't see that on the DJI goggles.
I thought you said you could do that.
No, you can do that on analog.
Oh, okay.
You can do that on analog, and I'm trying to think if I've got hold on one second here. Where is it? I may have the
only way you get your speed is on the apps with the regular DJI drones.
Yeah, but I'm trying to see, where is that folder that I had on here? God, I got so much crap on my desktop, you know.
Drone Obsessed Jerry. I'm convinced they released V1 without analog to create the hype for the analog option.
Yeah.
To sell more. Yeah, V2 will have.
Yeah, and then version 2.
Yeah.
Version 2 will have it, and
it'll be the first one to buy it.
God, no, I don't think so. By the time they do that, I will probably. Here's what I'm looking for. They will, by the time they do that, I will probably be have it. If I'm hooked on it, that's all I'll be flying are DJI equipped drones. You know what I mean? So
you have to get a different. What is that? The
air unit. Yeah.
So you have to keep getting more,
or move them around.
Is it that easy? I mean, don't you have to unsolder and then?
No, it's a plug. And the wires, so you spend $10 or $12 and buy the cables and just put the cable in each drone. And then it'd take you 15 minutes to swap the air unit and the camera. Those are, just a couple of screws, take them out, unplug it, and move it to another drone. But they're $179. They're $179.
For the camera and the air unit?
For the whole air unit, yeah. And that includes, even though I'm not using it, that includes a receiver. That includes a receiver. Here, I want to show you this here. We were talking about this. This was, and the bottom of it's cut off. But this is the goggle feed from, and I've cut off even more of the bottom. But let me make the window, try to get as much of it, get a little more. There we go. This is the goggle feed, and you see all the information I have. I have the latitude and longitude, a compass. I'm just carrying it now.
Tom Cruise's helmet cam.
Yeah, And then over on the right-hand side where it says 4.8 M, that's altitude, I think, GPS altitude.
Right.
It's settling down as it gets more satellites. Down there at the bottom, it says I got 14 satellites. I got 75 RSSI because the antennas are sitting in the grass. I got my voltage, flight timer, my mode, stab mode. Now you see over on the right there, it says F3:1.
Yes.
Okay, that's the Fat Shark Band channel 3. When I click it in air mode, when I arm it, you watch that 1 turns into a 3 over on the right, and that shows there it goes. See what? As soon as I armed it, it became a 3, and that means it automatically upped the power on the VTX to a 3. And now you can see the 34K is kilometers per hour, 48, 40, 37. So that's how fast it's gone. The 14.12 meters is my altitude. And it's getting all that information from the GPS. And if you look up at the compass, see, I'm headed east now.
Gotcha.
So that's the kind of stuff I like to see when I'm flying, you know, and I can't see all that stuff with the DJI yet, but
that's a pretty busy screen there, Mitch.
It is. And I did that pretty much just because I'm testing some things with the GPS. I don't necessarily have to
have it.
Have all that stuff in there. I was just curious, and I made the font real big too. You know, the font doesn't have to be that strong either, but that.
Just let you know, Mino Fly from Australia has joined us.
Oh, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Mino Fly. Yeah, me. I haven't been flying much lately myself here with the weather. Hopefully tomorrow or Tuesday I got a dentist appointment on Tuesday, so I guess that. Doesn't the goggle have a video out plug? Why can't you feed an analog transmitter? It has AV in, Jerry. And I tried that today. I tried to take the AV out from my Viper goggles and plug it into the AV in of the DJI, but all I got was a blue screen. I then took that same output and plugged it in the back of a TV set, and I had a picture. It was a composite image, but I don't know what the specs are. I've heard Joshua Bardwell say that you can take a ground station or any AV receiver and plug them into the DJI goggles in the AV input and use them. I question what the lag time might be with all of that stuff between the camera on the drone, and by the time you finally get the image on the goggles, I don't know what the latency might be, but I think Bardwell said that it was okay and usable, but not the best. So I don't know if that's really a great solution. For me, the easiest thing is just have the analog goggles and have the digital goggles. I mean, I'm not a backpacker. I'm not one of these guys who goes hiking up to Pikes Peak to fly drones. I drive up in my car, my air-conditioned car, pop the trunk, take out the lawn chair. So carrying an extra set of goggles around is not really an issue for me. But that's what a cluttered up on-screen display looks like.
Even your name, Mitch 5000.
Well, that's drone shots. The Mitch 5000 was my rebuild of the Tyro 99. Remember that? I took it all out, put it, and I said I got to give this drone a name. And Drone Shots says call it the Mitch 5000. So I did the video, and when I called it the Mitch 5000, I went like this. Mitch 5000.
I thought it was going to be the 179 because you had to put a few dollars into it.
Yeah, the Tyro $650. No, so I just for fun I put the Mitch 5000 in there. So cool. Onlookers could tune in with analog goggles if the analog output worked. No, there's no analog output at all, Jerry, on the DJI goggles. Only an AV in. only an audio in, no out. There's no digital in or digital out. No HDMI in or HDMI out. None of that stuff. Just the supposedly a way to plug a receiver into it. And so much of what they're doing right now is firmware, and the OSD information again is available to the air unit through the serial connection to the controller board. That one of the nice things about it, interestingly enough, is it when you arm the quad, it starts both recorders going, both the DVR in the goggles and the recorder on the drone automatically, and starts the timer for you down at the bottom of the screen.
Is there a USB where you can just plug it into the drone and bring it to the computer?
It has a USB. I don't think you can. You can't.
You know you could do that with the Mavic Air, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the problem is you have to power it on, and you don't want to be powering on race drones in the house with props under any circumstances if you can help it. You got to take the SD card out. Maybe the goggles you might be able to plug the USB in and actually transfer from the card. I don't know. I haven't tried that yet. I've been busy. I did get the I finally got the drone ready to fly.
You know what? Do the goggles allow you to review your footage while you're they do?
Yeah, there's in fact you can watch movies. You can format the SD card. You have complete playback functions.
By any chance, is it fast forward or rewind just in case?
There is. You have your joystick. Cool. You move the joystick one way, it fast forwards. The other way, it rewinds. Up increases the volume, and down decreases the volume. So you can put headphones in there. I actually took a video that I had edited, had sound and everything, and I just copied it onto the SD card to see how it would look in the goggles, and it played it like a movie theater. So whatever's on the SD card, it plays MP4, MKV, and AVI, I think, whatever,
So you can watch Ant-Man and look like him at the same time.
I could be Ant-Man. They're actually pretty cool looking goggles, and they're a lot less cumbersome than the Vipers. They're a lot smaller. Those Vipers are like wearing, I liken that to wearing a kitchen appliance on your head.
Nah, well, I've gotten used to them. But Jim Wallace just joined us, by the way.
Hey, Jim. As Spike would say, welcome to late night. Hey, you know what? How many viewers I got? I got 14. I've had up to 20. So this is a big attendance for me. Much better.
You're getting more and more popular.
I don't know. So for a while there, I thought I was getting people were getting tired of me.
Steve Carpenter is here now.
Oh, hi, Steve. Yes, practice. Then worry about the footage. I tell her Jerry, because of my glasses, that was pretty much the only option that I had. I have I don't know if you know this or not, but I have a prism. I need prism corrections. So just getting diopters won't work for me. I would actually have to take my prescription, send off to one of these companies, and I think they're in Germany, that makes the special glasses for these goggles. And the problem with that is they generally don't get them right. You put DJI in the title. Light Train says clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait. I was just laughing.
DJI in the title of what? You mean this video? What's he talking about? Conrad.
In general.
Oh, well, hell,
more silly than anything.
You got to get somebody to look at this stuff. I'm trying to build my. Not that I'm ever going to make any money, but
maybe going forward.
What?
You just put DJI and everything, and then you'll get more hits.
Oh well, I do. I put the DJI FPV in the titles of these videos, and I'd like to. hit that milestone, whether I make any money or not. I'd like the option of live streaming from my phone whenever, if I should desire, and to get to that 1,000 mark. I'm at 820 something now. I got 3,500 hours, watch hours, and 3 months left to get the other 500. So I should hit the 4,000 watch hours in a year and hit that mark. And not that, like I say, not that I'm thinking I want to make any money at this stuff, but it is a milestone, and it's nice to reach. It's like being in a club. Goal. Yeah, you reached a milestone. I never thought it would happen. Never thought I'd get this far. I don't go after subs at all. I don't go to Pusa or any of these other places, any of these. I did for a while, of course, with Canadian Drone Hub. That's how most of us got started in this stuff. But
Steve
lately,
Carpenter is mentioning tagging videos.
Besides time, you need to make sure your tag. Oh, I've got. I have a whole list of tags I put in all my videos, and I have one video that's almost 20,000 views, which is my big hit. That's
that you were flying naked that time.
No, that would get no views. That would get me banned from YouTube completely. No, it was that GoPro vlogging rig that I made way back. For some reason, that thing started to hit everybody. I must have hit the right keyword or something, right tag, because it just started getting a couple hundred views a day. I don't know why, but it did.
I personally think people genuinely like you. I like you.
Oh, thank you. I like you too.
You don't have to.
Let me play some romantic music.
Yeah,
here.
really.
Let me light a candle here and get a bottle of wine.
The lights a little bit.
I can turn down the lights a little. There we go.
All right.
Yeah. How's that? Is that like atmosphere?
Oh, beautiful.
I have a remote control here.
Oh, there you go.
For these lights.
All those nice little gadgets. I love it.
What came with it? It was a cheap light kit on Amazon. It came with 3 stands, 3 LED lights, and had remote control. So, why not?
Yeah.
Losing my microphone here. Hold on. There we go. Too much info.
Yeah, just having fun with Mitch. That's all.
Oh man, at least you come and visit me. It's mighty nice of you.
Well, I was watching for a little bit and seeing if anybody would join you, and then I'm your right hand man, so to speak.
Yeah, you and Art's been coming in.
Oh yeah,
company.
He's
yeah,
he's a character.
I just like the hell out of Art. I mean, you gotta love him. He's a funny guy. He's got a really dark sense of humor, and
I don't have any dolls. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the dolls. I got dolls here. I got dolls. I got. They don't look like his doll. I mean, I got.
I'm gonna have to get props from now on or something.
I have appropriate dolls.
That's the Mitch doll. Even though I know it's not Mitch, but
it's Walter. That's Walter. Yes.
It's supposed to be you, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's do you see the resemblance? I mean, look at this. I mean that.
You got to put on the grumpy face. That's all.
Yeah. But if you've ever watched Jeff Dunham do with Walter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
Welcome
just
to
your
Walmart.
Yeah, that's just your typical cynical, grumpy old guy attitude. And I've been a get out of my yard. There we go. Red Dog Rose says it's uncanny. Thanks.
I guess you would have to squint your eyes and take your glasses off, but
yeah. But my kids have a habit of getting me shit that they know reflects me. This shirt that I'm wearing here says, what do I do? It says, I smoke cigars and I know things.
Did they have that made, or they just found that?
No. There's a whole series of those. I came to find out. You know, one of them says I drink beer and I know things. You know. But
Hey, you know what? You should get a little. Steve Carpenter has a good idea. Get a little mini headphones that you can put on your bobblehead.
Yeah, I gotta get a little stocking cap like Scully.
He also reminds me of Mr. Magoo, that Walter.
You know that Spike went for what 5, 6, 7 hours last night.
Oh, he kept going. Wow.
I mean,
I know you were on around the 3 hour and change mark. Right?
Yeah, and I wasn't even going to come on. I wasn't even going to come on. I was.
You were playing with your toys.
Well, I was. You know, he had a big crowd there, and you know, I've been on almost every week with him, and let's see, I can tell you just exactly how long it was here. Subscriptions. Where's Spike?
I guess he's trying to work those hours up too.
Well, you know, Spike's he's got ambitions.
He's invested a lot into that.
He sure has. Let's see. 6 hours.
Wow.
And 7 hours. That live stream is 7 hours.
Well, he's trying for a 24-hour one, right? In the future?
Man, I don't know how. You know, my voice wouldn't hold up that long. After a couple hours, you can start to hear I get a little
Hoarse.
a little raspy. Yes, get a little raspy. But no, I like Spike. He's entertaining. He's a character, and he's
genuine, unique.
Yeah, I have no interest in taking the technology to any level greater than what I do right now. I set the studio up. I built the basics. I can do it does what I want it to do. I'm not trying. Not that there's anything. That reminds me of Seinfeld. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I'm not trying to
pirate radio like he wants.
I'm not trying to be like Greg Cooner, you know, Osmydrone, who strives to be a broadcast professionalism. Gotcha. Same thing with Nay. Perfection. In other words, everything's got to be timed, and you got to have all the right transitions and the music and the graphical effects and all that other stuff. And
I was talking to Nay and Spike about that. Unless you have to have. I mean, you can have all that. That's not going to guarantee any viewership.
No,
you have to be interesting.
You know what? you have to have content. Yeah, right. and a message, and that's where I at times even doubt myself, because if I, why would I want to watch me if I'm not interesting?
But you are.
Well, thank you.
And you're friendly, and and you know what? I don't. Maybe also Spike is looking for a larger crowd than just, at this point, he has mostly Americans and a lot of drone people. And I know he's trying to get a larger following, maybe with the motorcycles. Maybe he's going to try to incorporate the music and just become part-time music radio guy too. I'm not sure.
I can't. It's not my place to give him advice, and I don't know enough. Mm-hmm. Because if I knew how to be what it took to become a huge media star in this world, I would be a huge media star. I don't know.
You need a shtick.
A shtick. But even and I have a shtick. My shtick is the monkey, and the I change my set background every once in a while. Something else is going on outside my window.
The sound effects.
And the sound. I got the sound effects.
There you go. And you got FPV drone. Nice.
And
that was a real one. I could tell.
No, it was. I could do exactly the same thing. I got this one for the Australians. Got this for the Australians. Meh. That's pretty much my attitude about the world right there. Meh,
Yeah.
you know, and but I got a few sound effects and I got some music, if I want to bring music in, and that's it.
I think you're doing it more for fun than anything.
Of course I am. Of course I am.
That's the best part.
Yeah, I mean, and don't you?
Of course. I tell you what, I put my videos up for me to watch and some family members, and I ended up meeting all you wonderful people. And
yeah, well, that's
not so wonderful people, but
what I'm saying. Well, that's the great part of it. And
what I love is to be able to talk to you in Florida, Spike in Australia, and somebody else in a whole nother, Netherlands and Germany and all.
Oh yeah,
I find that fascinating.
Used to be you'd have to spend a fortune to make a phone call to these people. Now you can sit for 7 hours for free and have a face-to-face talk. Here, Red Dog Drone says the message is FPV is the home of friendship, love, and busted bank accounts.
Yep.
Can I have a amen to that?
How come the monkey's holding his nose?
Hey man, I thought that the monkey with the DJI goggles was the deal.
There you go.
I mean, seriously, come on now. I was proud of that. I get these flashes every once in a while, but that's about. And Spike was talking to me last night, and he was complimenting me. I guess about, he said that I've got my act together here. But it took me 10 minutes. I decided when Mel went off at about 9 o'clock, 400 AGL. I said, I'm going to go on tonight. So I got nothing else to do. I don't want to watch stupid TV. I have I've had some issues with this Nazgul5 I want to talk about. I've learned a few more things about the DJI FPV I want to talk about. And I just want to hang out with the guys. I'm
right. Tell me about that Nazgul. What's the problem? Negative issues?
No. Well, you missed the beginning of my stream, but this it's a gorgeous drone. It's a fabulous drone. It comes all built, ready to fly, except that it wasn't built and it wasn't ready to fly. All the screws were loose. The motor directions were wrong.
I've heard about the screws loose.
Yeah, but I mean, the motor directions were wrong.
Really?
I had to go into BL Heli and reverse some of the motors. It was set for props out. You know what that means? Yeah. Where the motors spin in reverse. Yeah. That's how they had Betaflight set. They had Betaflight set for props out. The motors bore no resemblance to either props in or props out. So I had to do all that. I just hope the PIDs are right. But I had to build it. Basically, it was almost like building. I didn't have to do much soldering. I did solder the receiver. I had to put the receiver in it. Now, maybe if I had bought a kit with the receiver already in it, it might have been really, quote, ready to fly. But without the receiver, if you didn't go over this thing from front to back, go over every setting in Betaflight, set up all the modes tabs, put the receiver in, do all that stuff, tighten everything up, check the motor directions, you'd be screwed. You'd be screwed. Yeah, the thing would be out of control. But all that being said, for the money,
I hear it's a good quad.
I paid $162 for this.
Right.
I mean, and it's got the Cadex rat tail camera. That's a $35 camera. It's got the Zing, the XING motors. It has that iFlight, they call it 6X flight controller and ESC. It really all the little TPU printed cushioning pads and pieces, and the coolest little mount for the antennas, and the receiver has a little pocket that it slides into, in that little TPU mount under there. It's gorgeous.
Papa Joe is saying good night, just so you know.
Oh, hey, Papa Joe, good night. Good night. Thanks for stopping by.
I've heard good things about it, and for the price, if you had a buy all the components, roughly about 250.
200, yeah, over 200. In fact, they had that. I already had one on the way, and it hadn't gotten here. This one, and then they had that big sale last week at Banggood, and they had this thing for $143.
Oh wow!
So I bought another. I ordered another one. Just to have one in back, $143. Even if I just part it out, even if I just use the motors and the flight controller and it's worth more than that,
So what do you have, like 7 quads now? 8?
I at least.
Now you gotta get flying them. That's next.
Well, I fly them more than a lot of guys think I do. I just don't post very many flights. I don't, first of all, I don't, unless for me, I understand what, you guys, you post a lot of flights and that's great. And I watch a lot of your videos, but, for me, I lean more towards what I'm doing now. I like being I like the flying, but I like the technical building, building and the discussing the systems. And that fascinates me as much as flying. Even with the Mavics, I posted some videos, but I was never real prolific when it came to posting. I would rather, a lot of my stuff was just walking around with a vlogging camera talking.
I remember that with the cigar.
I need to do that. I haven't done that in a while either. Need to do that again too.
How would you best describe your FPV flying style, Mitch? That's what Red wants to know. Freestyle.
Freestyle,
conservative freestyle.
Let's coin a phrase, old fart freestyle. In other words, you're not gonna find me at a bando or
gapping trees
at 100 miles an hour. I like cinematic stuff, but cinematic is a term that's really overused and under.
It's like freestyle with a cane, right?
Yeah, I like I like flying. I like soaring flying, and and I don't like to do flips like this. I like to do rolls like this.
Right.
And I like to do loops that are big and come around like that rather
more
than
like an actual airplane.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about the FPV, the DJI stuff, the OFFS, old fart freestyle. There you go. We've coined a phrase.
He's off.
Jerry, hey, listen, Jerry, you're right here with us, buddy. Almost. And Off's FPV. We have to come up with a channel for that. I may be the oldest new FPV guy.
How about the guy that hangs out with the UAV Futures, Grumpy?
He's not as old as he's nowhere near as old as I am. Grumpy
Gotcha.
Trev.
Yeah.
He commented on a couple of my videos, and I commented on or emailed me. He actually emailed me, and I emailed him back.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah. But no, seriously, find me a guy.
How about Bill something RC? He does reviews. Bill MRC. I would have to look at him.
Well, there may be an older guy that's been doing it since the beginning, but somebody that's just getting started in FPV at 72 and a half years old. Find me one. So maybe that's my claim to fame.
There you go.
Is world's old. No, there's got to be Steve Carpenter. He's close. Yeah. All you guys are close, but that's the story of my life. I'm always the oldest guy in the room.
Bill MRC. If you ever get a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's up there. He has 8 spots on his hand. I've seen him.
I may have a few. But no, I can't believe it. I don't feel. I still feel like same.
Yeah, I would think so.
I still feel.
I'm still 21.
Yeah, they're 20. I'm in my 30s. My dad was in his 90s, and he told me one day, I look in the mirror, he says, it just doesn't register because I'm still 30 something. I still feel the same, like I'm the same guy when I was 30 inside. And I now I am beginning to understand what he meant.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, the outside doesn't go along with that. It keeps,
that scares me too. I'm mostly an angle guy, but I fly in smaller places.
Yeah, well,
Listen,
I fly.
I'm sorry. The whole thing with flying to me is just having fun. Doesn't matter what stability or horizontal. If you're having a good time, you'll fly an airplane. You know, that's what it's all about.
Now, if you're flying around in the house, angle mode always. I don't want to. Why would I want to fly in angle mode? Lower the camera angle so you don't have to go real fast and fly around the house. Have fun. Outside, I like acro.
Yeah,
because I want to be able to roll over and do things. Yeah, and but it just takes it's rote. You have to keep doing it. You know, there's no other way to learn it. And the simulator for me has been a tremendous tool.
Never tried it. Do you use a paid one or
no? Velocidrone, $20.
Gotcha, and that's forever. Once you buy it.
Yeah, you buy it. And it is
is that computer sensitive in so much as if I get a new computer, I still have the
you could when you load it on a new computer, it'll say this is not the computer it's registered to. Do you want to move it to this computer? You say yeah, and then it won't work on the old computer anymore. You know, they do license it just to one machine, but you saw the you didn't see my opening. I had it playing outside the monkey's window. Where is it here? I got it here somewhere. Here it is.
The inverted yaw spin. I did one or two, and then I unsuccessfully did one, cracked the whole canopy. I tell you, that was depressing.
Now this is the simulator here. See? So
and you just plug in your
you plug in your
controller USB.
Yeah, you plug in your Tyrannus, but
and
you see
what it. You don't have to do anything to your controller. Tell the controller to do anything.
No, but you see, look at the stuff I'm doing here on the simulator.
Right.
I'm not worried. I mean, I can do this stuff on the simulator, but I wouldn't if I was out there at a place like this with this drone. Look at this move here. I go up, point straight down, roll around, make a split S, come back the other way, bang, right into the ground. Start over. No wreck. You know, this is tremendous way to try stuff. See, what I'm doing here is I'm trying things,
right?
To, you know, and you don't pay the price when you wreck, but you wouldn't dare do that with a real drone. And it gets to the point, I mean, where I'm moving along pretty good here, flying into buildings and
you can adjust camera angles.
You can adjust the PIDs. You can adjust everything. Look at that, right up through the roof. And here I came down around and come right back in the door from the other side or hit the wall. There you go. But that, it's a tremendous tool and it's very realistic. That's the neat part about it. It's very realistic.
And it tells you what size quad you're flying, 3-inch.
Yeah, you can pick. It has a lot of the known quads that are kits that are out there, and you just pick the quad you want. You pick the scenery that you want. But it's great practice to, especially for acro flying, where you want to try things like inverted spins or the maneuver they call a Rubik's Cube and things like that. You can try them, things like this, and over and over and over and over again till you get it right.
I think Drone Obsessed wants to fly with you on Velocidrone, an OFF night.
Yeah. I did that with Mel one night. That was the only time I did it where we actually, and what was really cool was the other guy's drone is almost like a mosquito buzzing around your head, See, I wouldn't do this with my real drone yet. When I fly my real drone, I'm 100 feet up in the air.
Right.
But with the
You don't try to fly low with your real drones?
oh,
Like
I do, but not like I do with the simulator. But
I'm
this
just
is
saying,
great
like, try to
practice.
stay like 2 feet, 3 feet off the ground and just keep going. I like that.
Yeah,
I like when you see the grass or the ground going by fast.
like
And you
that.
really get the sense of speed.
Yeah. But this is great practice, this simulator. And what I did was I did the simulator session, and I had OBS open, and I just recorded it in OBS for a while. I figured, I'll be able to use this stuff in a live stream sometime, and just. But it is flying. You're still moving the sticks. You're still seeing the same thing. You're just not seeing it in goggles. Now you can hook your computer up to the DVI in of the Vipers.
You know what
and practice flying in the goggles.
I have Apple TV, and I'm wondering if I could throw that. You can throw it to a bigger screen.
Well, if you can plug your computer in,
right? That's what I mean.
Yeah, then you can throw it on the computer. But it's great. It's great practice, and great to learn how to fly acro without having to crash. Now, when you get out there with the real one, you got to get used to the differences in the way it flies. But this thing does. The simulators do fly.
You know what it does?
Like
it teaches
the real
you what to do with the sticks. Also.
What do you mean?
Move left, right. Just whatever you need to do.
Oh, it does. It lets you. Steve Carpenter's going. All right, buddy. You take care. Thanks for coming by. It's getting late. I'm going to shut this down here pretty soon myself. Love to fly into my goggles.
It's past 11:30.
Yeah, Jerry says he'd love to fly it. Yeah, I haven't tried it yet in my goggles, Jerry, because I didn't want to take apart.
You can do that too?
Yeah, you can take, if your goggles, like your Vipers, have an HDMI in.
They do.
You can just take the computer output of the computer and plug it into your goggles, and use your goggles will be like a monitor.
That's pretty cool.
And you can practice on a simulator. But it is
Velocidrone, you said, right?
Velocidrone. It is great. It is great practice, and worth it's fun, and it's worth the time that you put in you'll try things, and you won't even realize pretty soon that you're not thinking about what you're doing.
And you get to pick your different maps, so to speak. Or
they have all kinds of different flying sites and race courses, and they got something for everybody. This one's my favorite because it's just got so many obstacles with all the cranes and the boats and.
Right, you can fly through stuff.
Yeah. I think I tried to fly through this boat here, not went over it this time.
Josie says, I fly freerider with my commanders. Great practice.
It is great practice. And anybody who says, well, it's not like a real drone, has never flown one of these simulators. They teach airline pilots how to fly in simulators. And they're very realistic. The only problem when you're flying on the computer screen with this, it's got such a beautiful, clear picture and big.
Mm-hmm. Well, now you have it with your DJI.
I was just going to say that. I'm hoping to be able to get that same kind of experience with the DJI goggles. And another thing they do is they simulate goggle noise. You get a little too far away, and then you'll start losing your image in these things.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you got away with one.
Yeah. No. Oh, I landed on the floor there. I didn't take me back to square one.
Minor wreck. Mitch, I'm gonna get myself ready for bed. I need a half hour of wind down time.
Yeah, you and me both. I'm gonna been doing this over 2 hours now. I'm going to quit here. I'll have to try Velocidrone, Josie. It's very good. For $20, it's a terrific program, very realistic, and it's got all kinds of different scenery and flying sites and racetracks and courses. But this one here is called Coastal, and it is without a doubt my favorite place to fly. You got buildings and boats and garages to fly through, and there's just no end to the tiny little places. If you want to go that small and fly through them, you can do that. for me, just getting through the bottom of these big cranes is a gap. That's where I'm at right now.
Do you find that they add maps or add, screens, or it is what it is one time?
I don't know. I haven't really updated it, but I'm sure they make improvements to it over time. I know at one point I flew through this boat. I think this may be it. Whoa, look at that. Now, how cool is that?
Nice.
That was an accomplishment, man.
That was good.
Yeah.
Helps you with the throttle control. That's what that's about.
Everything. And I found this through here is great practice. And then I come up the other side and do a big old, whoa, bango. Try to do a split S and, come back through from the other side. But this is where you practice those kind of maneuvers rather than getting your drone stuck up in trees and having, and losing them.
Yeah, speaking of which, I have mine stuck, a little one in the tree.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that. At any rate, that's what I do for fun lately. What a life. It's pathetic, isn't it?
No, you could be reading a book or just standing still watching TV. This keeps your brain stimulated. Yeah,
Jerry says that the local racers do the tracks for practice. Yeah, there's no shame in practicing on a simulator. Listen, back when I was
forget about shame. People.
Back in 1970, I was a flight instructor. Taught people how to fly. For real.
That's crazy. You mean up there in the sky?
Yeah, I was a flight instructor. And we had a simulator, one of the old, I don't know if you ever remember them. They're made by Link, and they looked like almost like a little kid's carnival ride. You'd sit down in this thing and it was articulated and nothing like what they have today. But do you know that time in the simulator actually counted as flying hours, but even back then? Yep.
Wow.
Because
now they have like 3 or 4 screens, right? Like it's almost 180.
Now they realized that the benefit of developing the reflexes and the experience of flying in a simulator is not much different than the real flying in the real airplane. So all airlines have training academies rely very, very heavily on simulators. The military,
it's probably cheaper.
Jet fighter pilot. Oh, of course it's cheaper. Plus, every time you crash, you just push the reset button, and it allows you to push the envelope, and do things you'd never think about doing with a couple $100 drone out there, and gain the confidence to know. Look, when I started doing these maneuvers where you fly forward and then you give it a little goose of throttle and then point the nose straight down and then pull the throttle back to nothing and then do a half roll and come back the other way. I started doing that on a simulator. You saw I was just doing it.
Right.
And I had never done it with my real drone yet. And I'm out there flying around and I hadn't even thought of it. It dawned on me. I was up in the air, just flying around. And I said, hey, why don't I try that with the real drone? So I goosed the thing, pulled it up, pointed it, just pushed the nose straight down, rolled it half around, came back out. And I said, wow, that's just like it was on the simulator.
It's a good way of changing direction quickly, the split S.
No, yeah. But normally a split S is a big half of a loop with a roll at the top. Isn't
it a roll and then coming around?
Yeah, you're right. A split S is that, and then a loop out. Yeah.
And you change 180
Well,
degrees.
This is still a split S, but it's a kind of a reverse one where you do the half loop first. But what this maneuver is basically just point the nose down and do a dive and then roll straight around. And see, the nice thing about a drone, unlike an airplane, if you're diving straight down, you can't just change your attitude to this. You have to make that bottom of that curve. Space. With a drone, you can go from straight down to this way instantly. Yeah. And then, you're going straight down. You just level it off and slam the throttle, and you're on the way back up again. Jerry says the maps can be colored and shaded. Local racers do the tracks as track editor. Yeah, all that stuff's way more complicated than what I'm interested in, Jerry. But I know that the features of these things are just tremendous, just tremendous.
Mitch,
Well, Carlos,
I don't want to be a party pooper.
No, go ahead. I got to get out of here too. I want to let you say good night.
Yes, good night to everyone. Thank you for allowing me to join you. And
anytime.
I'll try to be there on Thursday unless you do something sooner.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks for coming in.
I got your back.
Thank
you,
you, man.
everyone.
I appreciate it.
Buddy.
All right. Good night, buddy.
Bye.
Take care. Oh, okay. Well, I started this thing at 9:30. A couple of 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. I said, well, it'll probably last about a half an hour. Just come on and say the few things I wanted to say about the Nazgul5 and the DJI thing. And somehow these live streams always seem to stretch out, but I enjoy them. I really do. It honestly does not feel like I'm sitting alone in my house. If you understand what I'm saying, it feels like I've gone somewhere to be with a group of people, and it's an amazing experience to just be sitting here in a room with nobody around in front of a green screen behind me, and feel like I've gone to a party. So I thank all you guys for coming in. Means a lot to me that you think enough of me to come hang out for a little while. I hope that some of the crap that I learned the hard way here might be useful to you. And if not, I'm trying. I'm hoping to get some flying in this week, and I'll film some of it. We'll see what my real impressions of this DJI FPV stuff is, because until I actually get the drone up in the air, the real impact of whether it's really all that good, I won't know. And Josie, thank you. Barbara says I've learned something today. Well, good. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you very much. So with that, guys, I will, as I usually do, I will crank up my little music here. Here we go. I have to make a broadcast quality exit and transition over to Spank the monkey. Let him say goodnight to everybody. And with that, whatever's left of this day, all 15 minutes of it, take the rest of the day off. Play with your drones and have a good time, guys. And I will see you all the next time.